we know Canelo's not going to fight Crawford in September. He's fighting Edgar Berlanga. The idea of Crawford having a rematch with Errol Spence, who he thoroughly dominated, isn't particularly palatable and now looks certain not to happen. Spence looks likely to fight Sebastian Fundora for a 154-pound belt in December. Where does that leave Crawford? Because he's shown no real interest in fighting a Boots Ennis, who is another kind of viable opponent for him. What do you think might be next for Terence Crawford now, Eamon?
Vergil Ortiz, most likely, off of the back of what was a brilliant fight between him and Bohachuk. I didn't score the fight. I was in the depths of recovering from an illness, but I tuned in from round 4 and I watched. And I thought, have I missed this? Have I woken up from my stupor a little bit late and have missed a brilliant Vergil Ortiz finish? And I was surprised to see Bohachuk still in there and looking very, very good in there against Ortiz. And look, I didn't score it myself, but there's a lot of talk and a lot of upset that Bohachuk didn't get the victory. I was quite surprised actually when I talk about Ortiz getting the finish over him. I was expecting off the back of seeing a good operator in the form of Brandon Adams being able to finish Bohachuk I think it was a year or so back. I would have thought that Ortiz would be able to do the same, and he caught him with the same sort of left hook, but wasn't able to finish Bohachuk in that fight. I think Bohachuk also made the changes in his game to kind of lean over and make sure his chin wasn't exposed to make sure the smaller fighter wasn't able to find that gap to finish the job off for him. But it was a good fight nonetheless, and he seems more likely now to be the next opponent for Terence Crawford at 154, whilst, like we mentioned there, Spence and Maduro are probably tied up. I think there needs to be a little bit of clever and cute matchmaking for Crawford. You wouldn't put it behind the scenes to kind of say when it came to 154 and him moving up there, look, we can't kill the golden goose here in Crawford, so let's find a guy here who doesn't quite balloon up in weight, and this is a weight mismatch that kind of puts Crawford out of the game. So I think there was a tweet again. I'm sure I saw it, but it was on the night both of them weighed within a pound of each other. I'm talking Crawford and Madrimov. Now, when you look at that in the 154 division, you'd probably bank on someone like a Fundora or a Zhu to weigh a lot more than 1 pound of difference between themselves and Crawford on the night. So you've got to be cute with that matchmaking there. That's why I think someone like Ortiz, who doesn't really look like a fighter who's all that much bigger than 154 on the night, he definitely will, of course, put a bit on, but not a massive 154 at all. I think they've got to pick the right fighter, and I think Ortiz is probably that, unless they look to circumvent and look to avoid a fight at 154 and potentially do something like there was a post, wasn't there, 6 months or so, 7 months or so back, maybe a little bit longer, where they threw out Crawford versus Eubank, and that was almost universally panned, wasn't it, Danny? Also, a very outside bet, but I want to put it in people's minds. I think 3 weeks ago, Gennady Golovkin was asked, look, I'm not retired. I don't want to consider myself retired, and if I'm very much interested in having an interesting offer put forward to me, an interesting offer to Gennady Golovkin might be a return at middleweight against someone like a Terence Crawford. The Saudis would have the money, I'm sure, to coax someone like Gennady Golovkin out of retirement, whether it is or not. But for me, most likely, of all those options, Terence Crawford would probably be taken on Vergil Ortiz Jr. Wasn't
there a time when it seemed like Crawford might fight one of the Charlos at middleweight?
Yeah. I don't know what's happening with the Charlos right now.
Yeah.
All quiet with them. Very odd career.
All quiet on the Charlo front. Yeah, I mean, Vergil Ortiz, you could say he's earned the shot from that win at the weekend, but to me, stylistically, he seems absolutely tailor-made for Crawford. As you pointed out, he's not a particularly big 154-pounder. He's not long moved up from 147 himself. He's a skillful fighter when he's being aggressive. He's good at cutting the ring off and finding the gaps, but he's not particularly defensively adept. And you just got to think Crawford will counter him all night long or as long as the fight lasts. But I suppose it picks up another belt potentially at 154. And then if Crawford's aim outside of Canelo is to unify and become undisputed at a third weight, which is pretty much unheard of, but if that is his idea, will we end up seeing Crawford against Spence once again, but the rematch being up at 154? That's if Spence can get the job done against Sebastian Fundora. Maybe we'll talk about that fight in a minute, but let's just go through the chat. Toby Bartlett says, I did mention SO first. Check your comments. I did check the comments, Toby, so I apologise. You did say hello to us and the chat first. Gary says, Crawford will face Ortiz. Turkey will make that fight, and De La Hoya will then have to bend the knee. Where are we? Beautiful Golden Dragon says, could you get October Red on the stream already? This show has gone to shit. Thanks for that, Beautiful Golden Dragon. I appreciate the fact you feel it's gone to shit, yet you're still here, showing great loyalty there. October Red, speaking of Devil, says one of the twins wasn't too well, I believe, referring to the Charlos. Thunder Road says, Eamon was sick this weekend. I thought I saw a video of him scurrying towards the South Bermondsey station after Watford scored a late winner away to Millwall. Any truth to this scurrilous rumour, Eamon?
Great moment, but I had to watch that from home, and I threw up probably about 45 minutes after that result. I was due to go out and meet a friend to go watch Blues versus Reading. Had a shower, put my jumper on. I was like, oh, I'm too hot. I know what's coming next. And then bam, it was out there. So no, I was nowhere near the actual ground. I was at home watching.
Well, let us all thank you for not being overly graphic. Watford scoring a late winner away to Millwall. If you don't want to score a late winner, that's like the last place you'd want to score a late winner, isn't it?
Yeah. But beautiful goal from Ryovic. Great to see us back in the red shorts too, as Josh Green pointed out.
Wow. Okay. Josh Green's football knowledge extends beyond Peterborough. I'm very, very impressed. So Spence against Fundora. We obviously haven't seen hide nor hair of Errol Spence since the debilitating defeat to Terence Crawford. Sebastian Fundora upset Victor to win that £154 title, and obviously has those incredible dimensions for the weight as well. How much chance do you give a very inactive and perhaps demoralised Errol Spence against someone who's probably feeling better than they have in their career so far in Fundora?
It's so hard to say because we just don't know where Errol Spence is after the car crash and then the high-level fight. Because he had the car crash and they come back against Daniel Garcia, who, look, he isn't like an elite level fighter, but Danny Garcia at minimum is a solid world-class level fighter. So to come back off of the car crash and then beat Garcia shows that you're still capable to operate at the highest level. But then when he fought Crawford, and I was speaking to some of the other guys in the industry when we were discussing just Spence, and it was like, there's one moment in the fight with Spence where Spence and Crawford throw a jab, and Crawford lands the jab, and then if I remember it correctly, Spence throws his jab. Crawford's here in front of him, but Spence's jab is over here, and it's because it must be because he's got these problems with his eyes, which I think he's since had surgery for. I think he's since had a detached retina, didn't he?
Yeah.
And imagine something like that is real difficult to recover from, and you have to manage an injury like that properly, otherwise you're going to have that problem reoccur and it's going to completely affect your boxing career. And I think that's what's happened here, is that will be an issue for Errol Spence, whether he's still motivated enough to want to fight against at this level, or feel that he has the confidence to fight at this level, remains to be seen, because we haven't seen him in the ring. There's no announcements there. There's whispers and talks about these fights. There's nothing concrete about these fights. Luckily, we aren't seeing kind of reports of Spence, being intoxicated and coming out of various places like we used to see every now and again before the car crash kind of happened. You don't see Spence kind of giving these interviews and coming across as, drunk and things. So, those are kind of good signs to say that he'll return back to the ring. But Fundora is a fighter who knows exactly, even though he's still quite young, he knows exactly what he is. He's not there to outbox you and outfox you. He's there to go straight through you. And he's got a tight guard. He's got an awkward frame. He fights and punches while you're punching. There's only really one way that Spence is going to have to go at him, and he's not going to outbox him either. He's going to have to outdog him and outfight him. And if you haven't got that dog and fight in him, Fundora's going to find that out. So really, we just need to see that fight with Fundora to know exactly where it stands. I'd make Fundora a real big favorite in that fight as it stands right now, given the way Spence was that was a battle of two elite level fighters, but I've never seen, I can't remember seeing another elite level fighter so outclassed in that fight in recent memory. Maybe someone in the chat, or Danny, you can come up with someone who'd outclass someone else like that in such a way, because it was a magnificent performance from Crawford, but one that really kind of left a bit of worry from Spence's point of view because of what had happened to him outside the ring previously.
Yeah, I mean,